I had a cannon.
Captain Vijayant Thapar was born on the 26th of December 1976 in a military family to Colonel Vijayant Thapar and Mrs. Tripta Thapar. Having been brought up in the army family, Captain Thapar always wanted to follow in the footsteps of his father. In his childhood, he would often play with a gun and march around wearing his father's peak cap and holding his cane like an officer. He pursued his dream and worked hard to get selected in IMA Dehradun. He did exceedingly well in his training and was commissioned into the Army Service Corps, the logistic arm of the Indian Army. He was just 22 years old when he attained martyrdom. Captain Vijayant Thapar of 2 Rajputana rifles was awarded the Veer Chakra Award, the nation's 3rd highest medal for gallantry for having fought bravely the crucial battles of Tololing and Nol in the Kargil sector of Jammu and Kashmir during the 1999 war with Pakistan. As the nation gears up for Kargil Vijay Diwas, NewsX is paying tribute to Captain Vijayant Thapar for his valor and his bravery. Joining us is a very special guest. The father of Captain Vijayant Thapar, Colonel Vijayant Thapar, is live with us. Colonel Thapar, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Colonel Vijayant Thapar, we were just recounting, of course, the early days of your son. Just tell us a bit about his childhood and when he decided he wanted to follow your footsteps.
Well, he was born in 1976, and that time I was in an armoured brigade, and the famous armoured brigade in which Arun Khetrapal was also there, and there were tanks, guns, soldiers, and nothing else. So the question of decision making in the choice of his joining the armed forces never arose, because it is a foregone conclusion, both for him to join the armed forces and for us it was almost accepted that he will go there.
Is that correct, that he would sometimes, when he was a child, wear your peak cap?
Yes, yes.
And hold your cane?
Yes,
like
yes.
He was an officer?
Not only that, his passion for the army was very evident from very early. And at the age of 5, 5, maybe 6, we were in Meerut, and there was a parachute battalion that was going through. And the CO was a coursemate of mine. He said, why don't you come and have lunch with us? So I took him along. We had lunch in their mess. And while coming back, the troops were firing on the long range, which was on the route. So I also decided to fire a few shots, since it had been a long time since I fired. And I stopped there to fire a pistol. As I was firing, he was looking at me, wonder-struck. He was looking at the pistol, looking at me as though, something tremendous is happening. And I looked at him with dreamy eyes, looking at me eagerly. And then I just happened to ask him, for no special reason, I said, would you like to fire? And I was absolutely amazed. He said, yes, I will fire. And then that small kid, I had to kneel down next to him, hold his hand, cup his hand in my hands, put the pistol into the grip, and then he fired 5 rounds. That was when he was just 6 years old.
Yes.
By the time he was in the 9th class, he had already fired all weapons of the infantry battalion.
Amazing.
Small arms.
Absolutely. Colonel Thapar, at the end of the day, of course, when he was, leaving for the Kargil war with Pakistan in 1999, what message did you give him? Because at such a young age, he was already fighting a war.
Well, actually, we never came to know that he's gone into the battle. But we met him at Tughlukabad. Just I had, it was a funny meeting, because it is an episode in itself. But when we got together, that's the time when I was trying to tell him that there is a fine line between a rash action and a calculated, bold action. So be very careful, because you are particularly going into the hotbed of insurgency in Kupwara, and a small mistake can cost hell of a lot. So he was not, because I had given him the camera that he wanted. I had a Canon, and I denied him that camera. But when he was going now, I gave it to him. So he was so excited. He was looking at the knobs and lenses and all that sort of thing. He didn't pay any heed to what I was saying. But that's what last I told him. Be careful. There is no such thing as bravado. It has to be a calculated action.
You know, it's been 25 years now since the 1999 Kargil War. In fact, this year we're going to be celebrating 25 years at the Kargil Vijay Diwas. Does it feel like yesterday? You know, when you look back now, does it feel like 25 years for you, for your wife?
No. It seems like yesterday. Because we haven't allowed him to get out of our life. He's a part of the family as he was. I start my day every day with a small prayer in front of his picture, and we believe that everything that good happens to us, it comes through him. And whatever I want to happen, I quietly in my prayer in the morning, ask him to keep his hand on the family and see that everything is well done. We have not allowed him ever to be out of our life. Never.
Tell us a bit about, when he joined IMA Dehradun. What year was that, and what the conversation with you all at that point was, and then finally when was he commissioned into the Rajputana Rifles?
Actually, you see, now that you are on the subject, there are two things. One is a website, very, very neat and very nice website, which everybody should see.
Yes.
And the other is a book that I have written, Vijayant at Kargil. Okay. It gives very graphic and detailed, it's a very nice reading, and everybody enjoys it till the end when the battles join. So he was very, his instructors, luckily both of them were there, still in service when I wrote the book, and they gave me a feedback that he was a enthusiastic, bubbling with energy kind of a guy, always helpful. His friend didn't know how to swim, and he was a good swimmer. He won a gold medal.
Right.
So he would take his classes quietly at night. After the whole day's this thing, he'll go and take him to the swimming pool, and because the basic tests in swimming have to be passed, otherwise you are relegated to the term next. So he used to take him, teach him, and finally he passed the test. So very helpful kind of a guy, very enthusiastic, very lively. So, and of course he was very strong.
Yeah.
He was a bodybuilder and a good long distance runner. Though he, in his over enthusiasm, he went and had a bar of chocolate just before the cross country, fainted halfway through.
Oh my God.
So that was a bit of a debate.
Yeah. Tell us about the commissioning as well.
Well, actually, that's another small little anecdote. He wanted to join the Armored Corps, where there are tanks, and so he application for the Armored Corps, all three choices.
Right.
But because he had a fall and he missed out on a lot of training, he came down from a silver medal that is set to below, and therefore he could not get the choice, which is only available to the first 10 cadets. So he missed out on that, and then the instructors in IMA, they are very chosen people, officers and so this JCO was Rajrev, tall guy, lovely moustache. They had a conversation. So he says, "This is Thapar, आपका कहता साहब तो उन्होंने बोला देखो भारतीय सेना इतनी बड़ी गलती नहीं उनको राजनीति में साहब आई एम गोइंग टू राजनीति small little
As you said, it's all there in your book as well. Tell us a bit about his hobbies. You mentioned that he was very excited to get your camera finally. He was into photography? He was into photography?
Yeah, no, he was not into photography.
Okay.
And the camera had Canon. It was an S. It was quite complicated. But that became an exciting event. And what happened was that he and his CEO would go and that they would pose, he would take pictures and all this sort of thing. Till one day the CEO asked him, you've been taking these pictures for so long. How about getting the pictures and showing us? That's the day he got a shock of his life and he went, and he said, film hi nahi hai. And then I got a very angry call from a very angry Vijayant to say, Dad, it's all your mistake. You gave me a camera. You couldn't even put a film in it. And I said, yeah, it is totally my mistake. But you can buy a film now and put it in.
Okay.
So that was how it was.
Yes.
Well, he was a very determined kind of a guy. Swimming was his fad. He had, as a small kid, I had a bet with him that will you be able to do 50 lengths? So he said yes. So we had a bet. And he did more than 50 lengths.
Wow.
And then I had to pull him out.
Okay.
Because the chlorinated water was burning his eyes.
Yeah.
So I pulled him out.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of guy.
How was he in school? Was he a good student?
No,
or was he more into sports?
No, he was more into outdoors, sports, and imaginary kind of warfare games and things like that. But he was an average student. I mean, he never liked to bury his nose into the mathematics and science books.
Colonel Thapar, what was that moment like? How did you and Mrs. Thapar hear the news?
Oh, well, that was a bit of a... In any family who... Well, I was in Alwar. And Alwar is a place where there are no communications.
We are an emerging great power. We are a functional democracy. Our
as far as
parliament
my wife is
and
concerned, she was here. And she got a call from the army headquarters. Not she. She had gone off to school. She was a teacher with the Ryans. My son, younger son, Vijayendra, was at home. The telephone rang. He picked up the telephone. And at the other end, the person asked, who's speaking? He said, I am so-and-so. I am
Supreme Court.
Colonel Thapar's younger son.
And our Supreme Court.
So they said, you got somebody
our
elder
courts, our justice,
at
our
home.
parliament and our
He
Supreme
said, no,
great
why
power.
you tell me whatever it is, I will take action on that.
We are an emerging great power.
Then he put the telephone down. Then again he rang up and he said, there's some, be prepared for a news.
We are a functional democracy.
And then he told him that your brother has been killed last night in fighting very bravely, fighting the enemy very bravely in Kargil.
Our parliament
and he cut it off. There's no question of his getting a reply or thing like that. So this guy, he was hit by a stone in the head. And he was still in the 9th or 10th class. So then he took his bike, ran up to the school,
our judiciary,
told his
our
mom,
legislature
who
are
also
more than
had a
capable of
very
defending our democracy.
shocking kind of a... She fell down and then they all picked her up and brought her home. As far as I'm concerned, I was doing a court-martial in Alwar when this call came. Being an old officer, very old officer, the department from which the call came, I knew that this is something evil. But I was hoping to God that let it be that he has been wounded and he'll
your
be all
thoughts
right
as well
sometime.
on
was not
some
to
of
be,
these
and I was told
bizarre
that
matters that are being raised by
he has been
Pakistan
fighting very
on US soil.
bravely. He has
Good evening, Devika, and
been
thank you for
killed
having me.
the night previous.
Sorry, I was pushed off because of this internet
That
issue, but I
moment, of
think after
course,
Sumit Bhai's very forceful
will never be
interjection
forgotten by you,
and
but
Amjad Bhai's addition, not a lot has
let me
remained to
just
be
say
said.
that Captain
But I
Vijayant
would like
Thapar
to still
will
underscore
never
a
be
few
forgotten by
points.
the nation
First,
either. His bravery is an inspiration to many young officers even till today, and many who are not even in the Indian Army. We salute him and we remember him on Kargil Vijay Diwas,
think
25
whatever
years
Supreme
hence
Court
after the
judgment
99 war.
the
Thank you
spokesperson
very
referred
much,
to,
Colonel
apart
Thapar,
from
for
that,
joining
there
us
has
today.
to be a
Captain
forceful
Vijayant Thapar
assertion
was born on
that
the
look, India is a
26th of
democracy,
December
it has a functioning
1976 in a
institutions,
military
and
family
it
to
can
Colonel Vijayant
do.
Thapar
Apart from
and
that, there
Mrs.
has to
Tripta
be a
Thapar.
forceful
Having been
assertion
brought up in the
that look,
army
India is a
family, Captain
democracy, it
Thapar
has
always wanted to
functioning
follow in the
institutions,
footsteps of his
and
father. In his childhood, he would often play with a gun and
it
march
can
around wearing his
manage
father's
all
peak cap and holding his cane
internal
like
affairs
an
on its
officer.
own.
He pursued his dream and worked hard to get selected in IMA Dehradun. He did exceedingly well in his training and was commissioned into the Army Service Corps, the logistic arm of the Indian Army. He was just 22 years old when he attained martyrdom. Captain Vijayant Thapar
Every day
of
something
2
happens in
Rajputana
India. You
Rifles was
cannot
awarded
come
the Veer
to the
Chakra
US
Award,
State Department
the nation's third highest
and the
medal for
spokesperson
gallantry
referred to.
for
Apart
having
from
fought
that, there
bravely the
has to be
crucial
a
battles of
forceful assertion
Sololing and
that
Nol
look,
in the
India is a
Kargil sector
democracy,
of
it
Jammu
has
and
a
Kashmir
functioning institution.
during the 1999 war with Pakistan. As the nation gears up for Kargil Vijay Diwas, NewsX is paying tribute to Captain Vijayant Thapar for his valor and his bravery. Joining us is a very special
and
guest.
it can
The father
manage
of
all
Captain
its
Vijayant Thapar, Colonel Vijayant Thapar, is live with us. Colonel Thapar, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Colonel Vijayant Thapar,
all its
we were just
internal affairs on its
recounting, of course, the early days of your son. Just tell us a bit about his childhood and when he decided he wanted to follow your footsteps.
Well, he was born in 1976, and that time I was in an armored brigade, and the famous armored brigade in which Arun Khetrapal was also there, and there were tanks, guns, soldiers, and nothing else. So the question of decision making in the choice of his joining the armed forces never arose, because it is a foregone conclusion, both for him to join the armed forces and for us it was almost accepted that he will go there.
Is that correct that he would sometimes, when he was a child, wear your peak cap?
Yes, yes.
And cane?
Yes,
Like
yes.
he was an officer?
Not only that, his army was very evident from very at the age of 5, 5 maybe 6, we were in Meerut. And there was a parachute battalion that was through. And the CO was, of course, mine. Why don't you come and have lunch with us? So I took him along.